all still here, we weren't sucked into the hole, so I'm happy to welcome to the stage Scott Tobias from the AV Club. And Dante. And just a brief note that at the end of the Q&A there will be a few giveaways, trivia question giveaways, so stay tuned for that.
If you would like to ask a question of Mr. Dante, there is a microphone on this aisle over here, so that's where you'll want to queue up. So I think this got a good reception. No, did you enjoy this film? I think you'll be happy to know that the Dick Miller cameo went over extremely well. Thunderous applause for that.
Dick is actually officially retired, and he just sort of comes out of his house for me. And it was a little tricky on this movie because we shot it in Canada, and it's set in the summer, but we shot it in the coldest winter that they've ever had in Vancouver in my lifetime. And it was just freezing and snowy all the time. We did one exterior scene with the kids walking down a street, and there was so much breath coming out of their mouths that I went to the producers and I said, not only do you have to pay for CGI to get rid of the breath, but you got to pay for it twice because it's a 3D movie and you got to do both eyes. And they went, oh, that's not so bad. So we basically shut down for a couple of months and then went back and shot the exteriors of the house and all that other stuff in Pasadena, which allowed me to be able to use Dick for that gag, because one of the deals about going to Canada is that you can only take a certain number of American actors and still get your tax credit. So luckily, there was a part for him, and there really wasn't a part for him, but it was like, well, here's a part. And I was supposed to play it myself, and I said, I'd much rather have Dick do it.
So you had mentioned in the intro that you were sort of evoking, a certain type of family-friendly horror films of the '80s. Did that really doesn't? They don't get made much anymore. Did that affect getting this film off the ground?
Well, I think based on the box office of this film, they're really not going to get made anymore. This is one of those movies that's suitable for kids, but there's a little other darker hints of meaning for the parents, and basically the big worry of part of the studio is that this is essentially a movie about child abuse, and I said, well, we can handle it in a way that it'll be apparent to older people what may have been going on, but I think it won't be that apparent to kids, and so they were okay with that. But it was an attempt to sort of try to make the kind of pictures that were popular in the '80s, where you could take a family to a movie, and they could all get different layers of meaning out of it.
And was there a sense of how far you could go? I mean, considering what that kind of an audience, how intense you could make the film, and where was a line you're not wanting to
Intensity is always the issue with horror films. It's not what you show necessarily, it's how intense it appears. And the real bugaboo that you have if you try to do it in what I think is the scariest way, which is to leave a lot of it to the audience's imagination, then what happens is the MPAA comes back to you and says it's too intense. And then you say, well, but what do we need to do to fix that? And they said, well, it's your movie. We don't tell you how to cut it. We just tell you it's too intense, so fix it. And in a movie like this, where there's stuff going on under the surface, it's a question of, how subtle, how unsubtle, how much can you get away with it. In a picture like this, it's obviously not about slicing people's throats and doing that kind of stuff. It's all sort of psychological. So it's a fine line, and you walk it as you shoot the movie, and you walk it as you show it to people, and you just really don't know. In this one, I think some people were put off by what it was really about, but to me, that was the interesting thing about it. about it was because it's not a movie where stop motion creatures come out of the hole. It's a movie that's it goes somewhere that you don't really expect it to go, and that was what was appealing to me about it.
And so what did you, you know...
How come his works?
What's this?
What does yours work and mine doesn't?
I think this was yours.
I want mine back.
So
if it stops working,
I think the audience got a sense of of certain 3D effects. There were some scenes where you know, kid was throwing a ball in the air, and there were some.
Well, you have to have those kind of things if it's a 3D movie, because people expect it. But the whole concept of this use of 3D was that we wanted to immerse the audience in the movie. It wasn't a matter of throwing things at them. And yeah, a couple of times you do things where they go, "Oh, look, it's coming out of the screen." But that's not, for me, what really is interesting about 3D, particularly these days where the 3D quality is much better than it was in the 50s, which is that you can actually bring people into the movie. You can make them feel a part of it. I mean, this is a movie where 2/3 of the movie takes place in a basement. And when I said this to the producers, I said, you know, this could be a very claustrophobic movie. I think that if you do it in 3D, you have a chance to sort of bring the audience in as if it's a play right in front of them, and that they can be part of it. And so that was our intent, and when we took it to the Venice Film Festival, they agreed and gave us their first Best 3D award.
Well, what was the experience like, I mean, adjusting to it? You worked in digital 3D before, certainly. I mean, what sort of adjustments did you have to make?
Well, I feel silly talking about it because you guys didn't see it in 3D, but, you know, I had done a 3D movie before called R.L. Stein's Haunted Lighthouse, which was a film for Busch Gardens Entertainment that ran at SeaWorld, and it was in 4D. And 4D is 3D, except they throw things at you, literally, and they drop water on you, and they make feathers make you think that rats are in the theater and stuff like that. Which is, you know, goes back to my William Castle roots, so I like that. But that was a 70mm 3D process in which two 70mm cameras are strapped together, and that's how you shoot it. And they weigh up as much as a Pontiac. I mean, it's really hard to move the camera, and plus they're really loud. So it's not an ideal 3D system. But today, with the digital systems we have, they're really far superior to anything we've had before. And the only difference is that you use a lot more light on the set than you would ordinarily, because you have to compensate for the fact that there's light being lost through the projector and through the prisms and all the lenses that you use. And also, you can't cut the movie quite the way you cut a normal movie, because if you've seen any of the fake 3D movies like Clash of the Titans, which were edited in 2D and then converted to 3D, there's a lot of fast cutting in those pictures that doesn't work in 3D because your eye needs time to adjust to what the parallax is. And so in a 3D movie, you're always very conscious of where the objects are in space when you cut to the next shot. And that changes subtly the way that you would cut the movie. You wouldn't cut a movie that was going to be seen in 3D exactly the same way you cut a 2D movie, and that I'm sure is the case here.
So, if you all have any questions, please, line up. Not to say I'm out of them, but I don't want to give you. I don't want to.
He's out of questions.
I don't want to hog up this time. No, actually, go ahead if you're up there already.
All right. Well, I know it's obviously hard to pick a favorite film of yours that you've made, but I didn't know if there was maybe a favorite scene or number of scenes that stand out throughout your film career.
Favorite scenes? Well, you know, you don't really look at it that way. When people ask you what's your favorite movie, it's like they say, well, which one of your children is your favorite? You know, and you go, well, The Little Crippled Boy is my favorite. And so I would pick Explorers, because that was a movie that didn't get finished. It was released as a rough cut, and I never got to finish it, so I always think of that as The Little Crippled Boy. But I really enjoyed making Inner Space, which was just a joy to work on, because the actors were so funny. And of course, Matinee is a very personal movie. And Gremlins 2 was the chance that I got to just make any movie that I wanted, no matter what, because they just wanted a movie with that title. So So I like that movie too. But the early movies were a lot of fun. I mean, even Hollywood Boulevard, which is by any standards a pretty terrible movie, it was a great deal of fun to make, and it's I think fun to watch because it's sort of like a documentary about how we made those movies, and it's not unlike the plot in that movie, except for the murders, is not unlike what we really went through to make the pictures.
That film actually, Hollywood Boulevard, is on Instant if you want to watch it. But I think it's, I disagree with this.
It used to be very big on hotel televisions for tired businessmen.